Hi, it's Chris Gio from Merchant Method. How are you? I am so excited to be back with you after a week away. Last week I recorded a non-trend trend report and I'm back. Welcome to Merchant Method Trend Reports. What I do is I combine retail industry news with experience-based training so that you can build more retail profit with more ease. This week and over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be diving into customer service, specifically allowing you to understand your current service and then create the consistency and the level of compelling service that you so desire for your customers. When I think about consistent service, I think about service that is repeatable, it's trainable, it happens with a lot of frequency. It's reliable for customers. And when I think about service that's compelling, I think about compelling service from a customer's point of view. The service and the message that they want to hear at the right time, in the right place, in the right way. So that's what I think about. It's getting more and more difficult to hire the level of customer service that you need for your store. It's getting difficult for all retailers, for all service providers. Some could say that it's getting more difficult because the world is so digital and the level of interaction and the level of humanity isn't rewarded as highly as technical aspects and technical skills. Others may say that it's difficult for independent and small retailers to be as competitive employers as their national or big retail counterparts. Regardless, it is an important thing to seek, it's an important thing to train, and it's an ongoing concern that tends to rear its ugly head in a few different aspects of the business. One could be theft. The other could be, employee turnover, where I see customer service issues coming up a lot with the same level of stomach churning ache and, feeling of having no control, feeling unsure, feeling of a lot of conflict is when there are customer service issues at point of sale and at the cash wrap. Because it's always very real transactions when money is involved. And so I've seen this in a few different ways. One way that I've seen and heard of it really recently are botched returns. When the return process isn't done correctly and perhaps customers get charged twice. Or a customer might be needing to pay, but instead the employee returns and gives them money plus the item. I've seen botched and poor customer service when customers are waiting and employees are flustered or they're distracted. It could be a seasoned employee that's distracted and maybe misses one of the items in a multi-part transaction. Or maybe inaccurately types in a few digits. Whatever the case may be, that opportunity to strengthen the customer and employee bond at point of sale is totally deteriorated. And not only does it hurt the brand equity of the business, but it hurts the actual financial standing of the business. So in this two-part series, the first part, what we're covering today, is really dissecting the customer service that you currently have with the team that you have. We need to understand it better before we can improve it. And then next week, join me next week when we're talking about how to actually create that consistency and that level of compelling service that you want all your customers to have. So here's why we need to continue to talk about it and why I know it's an important topic for you. Any one of us as retail leaders, we can articulate how we want customers to feel when they engage with us, how we want them to feel in a strong bond with our employees. We can also describe the types of things we want them to hear. Friendly, welcoming greetings, fantastic interactive questions, product knowledge, generosity, hospitality. We can identify those. We're probably also likely to be able to identify and articulate the way we do not want them to feel. For example, rushed, ignored, like one of many in a series of customers. We can identify what we do not want them to hear. Excuses, back of house talk, gossip between employees. We may even be able to identify employees that we think are excellent at delivering customer service, either based on reactions from the customers. Either they've come to us to tell us how much they love that employee, or we hear the enthusiasm in their voice. We may be able to identify rock star customer service employees because of their results, either their financial quantitative results or their qualitative results. They just elevate everyone else on the team. But despite the ability for us to do that, where I see my clients struggle over and over again, and where I hear from other people that, on message boards, the articles that I read a lot of articles in my research, is when we struggle to identify these fantastic customer service opportunities and make case studies of them. Identify the teachable moments within them, and then train those attributes that contribute to consistency and compelling service. That is the biggest opportunity, and that's what I hope to help you with over the next 2 weeks. So let's start with what we know intuitively and revisit what we know intuitively in terms of really high impact service at a very low cost. And we love those things. High impact, low cost. Because they're sustainable, they're trainable, and they have a huge return, not just on investment, but a huge return on what I call return on intention. We know the opening gesture or the opening greeting carries so much weight. That gesture or that greeting up front can be more meaningful to the customer-employee bond than if it is presented later in a customer shopping experience, even if it's 10 minutes later. We also know that sometimes scripts and prompts and a bag of questions that an employee can just pick one question out of the hat is helpful when someone is new, but customers are smart, so they can see and sense disinterest. They can see and sense disingenuineness. So we also know that actions speak volumes and can often speak louder than words. So a really friendly posture, body language, eye contact, which does not happen enough in retail transactions, just a friendly demeanor, openness, standing with your arms open, not crossed, standing with your weight on both feet instead of shifting or leaning on something, your body facing the door versus your shoulder or your back. So many of those things speak quickly, communicate so much more than a simple, and faster than a simple greeting can. But remember, customers are smart, and they can read right through anything that isn't genuine or isn't authentic. But luckily for us, high impact, low cost. The second high impact, low cost thing that we know carries a lot of weight with a customer are, the things that we do that surprise and delight them, that unexpected token. So think through the last time you were at a restaurant and paid your bill, when you received a chocolate or a mint, or my favorite, a mint flavored chocolate that I get from Nordstrom, which I love, or the gift that came with your cosmetic purchase. Perhaps you put out water on a really hot day, or you offer tea or cocoa or warm cider on a really cold day. Maybe it's the, keepsake canvas bag that employee or that customers get with a purchase of, $75 or more, something that they can carry around and use over and over again. One of my favorite businesses in the area used to create these beautiful, large paper flowers. And when you bought something, they wrapped one around the handle of the bag. I loved those. That was a fantastic token that surprised me and that built a lot of brand equity for that company. In my eyes, and so I would take friends with me when they were in town to that particular store. So think through high impact, low cost. What is that unexpected token? The third thing we know that carries a lot of weight is really successful customer relationship management. And customer relationship management is not merely the customer-employee bond in store, but how that bond is nurtured once that customer leaves. It's in the follow-up. So ask yourself, how are you following up with your customers? One of the common habits of really successful, highly successful brands is following up with customers. Customers love to storytell and share, how they felt, what was done for them, what they heard. And in collecting those pieces of feedback from employees and showcasing them with the intention of teaching and training and using it as a case study, not merely on your website, not merely posted on the employee board, but really learning from each of these moments is really going to allow you to unlock and create more consistency. It's illustrative teaching. So just as we know that these high impact, low cost, general things carry a lot of weight with customers, on the other end of the spectrum, the things that we don't know can just as much hinder us, be stagnant, can hold us back, can deter from amazing customer-employee bonds. They can equally hurt us, particularly if we cannot distill or identify or articulate or point out what about poor customer service situations we want to change. So there are two areas that I want to really explore, and I want you to explore over the next week. And the first is around treating selling as a changing organic situation, because it is. Selling is situational. Customers want to be asked the right question at the right time, and that back and forth interaction, that genuine interaction that happens between an employee and a customer is situational. And oftentimes we will train employees to ask certain prompting questions or, suggestive sell or interact in a certain way that's appropriate with your expectations and, aligned with what you've taught them. But what happens when the situation is outside the normal parameters? Don't be surprised it happens often. Situations are outside the normal parameters because everyone has a very complex hierarchy of needs when they're shopping. Do you give your employees permission to go off script? How much space, how much latitude, how much permission do they have to explore different types of questions that are aligned with what the customer needs? So I want you to think through that. Are you modeling different types of approaches? You may have one or two really strong approaches that you're really known for, that you're really great at as a retail leader and as a retail owner. But do you model the ones that are maybe outside of your pocket or outside of your typical scope? Are you role-playing with your team to give them an opportunity to feel like they're not going to fail, that feel like they're safe, feel like you are being collaborative with them, and providing actionable, helpful feedback to address situations that were really difficult to address live? Are you giving them the authority and the permission to try different things and go off script? Sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't, but this ability to shift and maneuver with a situation is really, really important for a strong customer-employee bond. The second area I want to explore with you, and I want you to think about this weekend, is the type of service archetypes you currently have in your business. And there are a few different archetypes, whether by design of the way that you've written job descriptions, the way that you recruit, your own style, whether it's just come up naturally or you've condoned it or you ignored it. There are a couple of different archetypes that are fantastic for you to understand and start to identify so that you can shape the service you want your team to deliver. There's a fantastic article in Customer Think that was published earlier this month on March 9th, 2017 by Jeremy Watkins. And really what he highlights early in the article are these archetypes that we don't realize contribute to inconsistent service. We think as small business owners we're empowering our team, but it is condoning inconsistencies that we may not realize. So the first archetype that he offers is the superstar. Now we are familiar with a customer service superstar. I wouldn't be surprised if you are a superstar yourself. It is all personality, and what makes it fantastic is it's easy to spot, it's easy to hire. The challenge with a superstar is how does that superstar position everyone else on your team? And what I mean by that is it is unrealistic to ask the superstar to carry the weight for the entire team for every open hour that your business has, because they can't work there all the time or they'll burn out. So highlighting a superstar can contribute to inconsistencies in the team. The second type of archetype is the employee that always gets a manager, right? So this person maybe tries and resolves issues on their own, but they must get a manager in order to authorize anything or prove anything or appease a customer who is unhappy. And maybe that's what you want. Maybe you don't want employees to manage, sensitive exceptions, but what happens is that these employees often feel powerless because they are in fact powerless. And in this position of not being able to approve or authorize or do what needs to be done on behalf of the customer is that they are not trusted because they don't have authority. They don't have say, they don't have confidence. And that customer-employee bond doesn't happen in the same way. The third type of service archetype is very loose. He calls it loosey-goosey, where you are asking your team, please do what you need to do to make the customer happy, to do right by the customer. And there are no parameters. And we think it's fantastic because we're giving our team autonomy and authority and power, but where it can go sideways is the lack of parameters. Our team still needs parameters. They need guardrails and guiding principles. And in this loosey-goosey, archetype of service, a couple of types of customer service may come forward. So the first type might be that people give away way too much. You can see that at the cash wrap or at the point of sale, right? Where, it may sound like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Let me give you a refund on this item and let me give you a 10% discount the next time you come in, right? You're just overgiving. No parameters. The second archetype that might happen in this loosey-goosey scenario could be that customers clam up employees clam up because there's no parameters and they're so worried about doing something wrong that they actually let the customer walk out the door. And what this might sound like or look like is, I'm so sorry, but that's against our policy. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what to do. Call back, or, I'm not authorized to do that, or I don't know how to do that. And so customers just walk out the door and they may never come back in. Worse, they may share their bad customer service experience on Yelp. The third type, really in between giving too much or walking customers, is the employee that develops their own internal set of justice or internal set of rules. They really want to do the right thing and they feel confident in doing it, but they develop this sense of justice and rightness, and they're not going to let anyone take advantage of the company. And that can go sideways, that can go wrong, particularly if they're not talking with you about it, you're not aligned, it's not aligned with company values, it's not aligned with your values as a leader. So what I want you to do over the next week, really, in this month and this time when you're thinking through how do you elevate the level of consistent service, of compelling customer service? How do you avoid all of those gut-wrenching experiences at point of sale or at cash wrap? Take some time this week to study the archetypes of customer service on your team. So again, there is the superstar, there's the get me a manager, and there are those 3 loosey-goosey types, either the ones that give away too much or walk customers or have their own unspoken, unauthorized sense of, of internal justice and internal process. And what I want you to do as you think through each employee, as you think through the archetypes, articulate, write down, identify, highlight examples of what service successes are within those archetypes and what service opportunities are within those archetypes. Take the time over the week, because I know you don't work with all of your employees every day. And then what I want you to do is join me next week for part 2 of this series, where we're going to talk about, now based on your understanding of the service that you have, either by way of employees that you've hired or trained, or what you've created or condoned and not realized. We're going to talk through how do you create the steps, the ingredients to create the consistency and the level of compelling service you want every customer to have when they come to know and come to work with your brand. Thank you so much for joining me for Merchant Method Retail Trend Reports. I'm Chris Gio, and I will see you next week. Bye.